Welcome back. We are now just 5 days away from the primary election in the state Supreme Court race.
Technically, it's a nonpartisan race. That's how we do it in Wisconsin. The Republican versus Democrat elections are in the fall. Offices like mayor, well, those are voted on in the spring, but this race has taken on a little bit of partisanship.
And we're starting to see that in the statements the candidates are making right now. Here again, political reporter Will Keneally.
It's that unspoken game that candidates always play. They're running as judge, so they aren't supposed to make any political statements. But at the same time, they're trying to win over voters, many of whom consider themselves either Republicans or Democrats. So we'll tell you what they are saying on the campaign trail so you can get a better sense of where these candidates stand. Starting first with Milwaukee Judge Janet Protasiewicz.
I was in a position where I could not sit on the sidelines and sit back and watch, in my opinion, extreme right-wing radicals win that seat.
One of the clearest cut positions we've seen a candidate take on the issues comes from Protasiewicz. During our one-on-one sit-down with her, we asked her about some of the issues that we know will come before the court, like legislative redistricting. She wasn't afraid to tell us what she thinks.
I think when you have values of fairness, you have a value that everybody's vote should count, that in a democracy, everybody should be heard, it resonates. So while I can't say how I would particularly vote on an issue, I can tell you those values would be brought into the Supreme Court chamber with me.
And that's on top of ads that she's running right now talking about a woman's right to choose on the issue of abortion. Compare that with former Justice Dan Kelly. We asked him a similar question.
And this is where there's a line on what I can address as a judicial candidate.
He's very careful not to nod one way or another in his public statements. But what do we know from his record on the bench? He's part of a reliable conservative voting bloc. For example, he wrote one of the opinions that struck down the governor's stay-at-home orders during the pandemic. And broadly, he says that he defers to the legislature on these kind of issues.
Legislature is the one to lead public policy for the state. And then the other two branches, the work they do, that's all derivative of what the legislature does.
Kelly is one of two candidates that are backed by conservatives in this race. The other is Judge Jennifer Dorow. She's a judge in Waukesha County, and you likely know her from the Darrell Brooks trial last year. On her background, we have some of her application materials when she first applied to be a judge a decade ago. In her application, she says that she disagrees with a U.S. Supreme Court case that protected gay men, striking down a sodomy law in Texas.
Sometimes the words or even the statutes themselves are stupid. But stupid doesn't mean unconstitutional. It doesn't matter to my job whether I like the words or even to agree with the law.
She says that she would be willing to uphold laws that she disagrees with as long as they are constitutional. Now, the other candidate with liberal backing in this race, Dane County Judge Everett Mitchell. He's a background working with juvenile cases in Dane County, but would also be the first black justice elected to the court after Louis Butler was appointed but lost his first election bid in 2008.
I think as an African American, thinking about how the Constitution was framed without us, even the idea of slavery that was not included in the very language of the Constitution itself, but yet was a reality of it. You want a document that both speaks to the living opportunities for how, our culture will change and how does that mean for us.
And these are the candidates, all vying for the top two spots in the February primary. Now, the top two candidates, regardless of party affiliation, will advance to the April general election.